Welcome back for another interview. I'm excited to bring back to the channel my good friend, Amy Searcy-Knirsch. Amy, how are you?
I am amazing. Thank you so much for having me again. It's always an honor and privilege.
Yes, our family loves spending time with your family and just hanging out and get to know they're amazing. You are amazing people. Those who don't know Amy and Steve, phenomenal. You have to get to know them. Today, we've talked about you and your story, and if for those that we'll share it a little bit today, but if those of haven't seen Amy, maybe definitely research because we've done other stuff together that you can check out. But one of the things I wanted to focus on, and I think a lot of people can learn from, is you wrote a book called The Fire Within You, which I'll make sure we put a link below so that as we're listening, you guys can go check out the book. You can also hear from Amy why she wrote the book. And at any point, if you're like, hey, I would like to support Amy on her mission and what she's doing, but also think I can learn from the book, we're going to make sure the link is below for the book. Okay. Um, where did this idea of the book, The Fire Within You, first come from?
All right. So God had been dripping on me for a couple years about sharing my story. And of course, on the back side of that is always the other voice saying, who are you to speak? Who are you to share? You don't have all your life together.
Mm,
Really, there's been a lot of people, that have been through way worse stuff than you. Like, you just need to move aside. And so you start accepting some of those, messages in your head. And then the first 8% I went to, I was invited up on stage, had no idea what I was doing, ended up eating fire on stage. Yes, like literal fire in my throat.
yeah.
And
Which
it
was
was,
scary, right? That was, like, terrifying.
well, I think it was more terrifying for everyone in the audience than it was for me because, they're walking through like step by step over and over, like all the pieces to eating fire and what you do, what you don't do, why you do them, why you don't do them, which is really a great alignment with other things in life, where you're learning the things and why and you do and don't do what you do to get to where you want to be and be successful at it.
Hmm.
So then when it came time to either light it up or not, it was like, yeah, why not? So so once I did that, it was just like, dang, if I can eat fire, I can do anything. So I said
Yeah.
yes to the book, yes to sharing the story, yes to being totally vulnerable and transparent, because that's what the book is, sharing my story. And it's not about, the book is not really about me. I mean, it's about me, but it's really to share, to serve others
Mm.
so that people can know, like, stop trying to hide behind, your fears, your flaws, your bad mistakes, junk that's happened to you, and really taking those things and turning them into good and lighting a fire within you to help
Yes.
other people. So that's where it came from and what gave me the, power to say yes. So thank you to you and 8% for that experience.
That's awesome, and it's cool that that's how it started too, which is a great,
Mhm.
and that's really the vision behind 8% is to give people a little bit of a push to do some bigger things with their life and help people, which you guys are clearly doing a lot of as we're gonna talk through a bunch of ideas. Before we get to some of the other things that you're doing and really dive into the book a little deeper, um, again, the book, The Fire Within You, which is such a great title, and now it makes sense for those who are listening of, like, "Oh, aha, that's why she titled the book, The Fire Within You." Well, because it was a literal fire on stage at 8%. If you think through, you mentioned we're like, I know I need to write a book. I don't need to do this. I don't need to do this, whatever it is, right? But and on one side, we're like, you should share. Other side, it's like, am I worthy to share? Um, why do we go through that? And how did you, as you struggled with that, how did you finally just overcome it?
Well, I mean, everybody has been through a lot of things in their life, and some very different, very much worse off than mine, I guess you could say.
Sure.
But I really feel like God allows us and helps us through those and expects us to turn around and help other people that
Mm,
have gone through the same thing. And maybe it's not the exact same thing, but it's some of the same feelings, self doubt, abandonment,
yes.
bad decisions. I mean, we have to own those. Feeling unloved. Maybe you have a health diagnosis, divorce, death, grief. Grief isn't just over death, it's maybe grieving how you thought your life was going to look. grieving things that have happened, and fear, and not, we have to go through all the healthy steps of grief, but we can't sit in them. We can give them their proper place and time. And then we have to make the conscious decision to move forward and do something with that and
Hmm.
use that. So I feel, you're really most powerfully positioned to serve the person that you once were. What challenges have I conquered? What obstacles have I overcome? What setbacks have I survived? You all have those. And how can you use
True.
those, to really serve who you once were? Take, the book is like taking people on the journey through those things, to take them to like the intersection of who they've been and who they feel they're called to be, really. So
Yeah.
it's really about serving other people with those um, situations and those growth and learning lessons, because when you're serving, there's only wins found in serving. So
Yes. Yes. And what is the book? As you go through the book, for those that haven't read it yet, and they're going to check it out in the description below, The Fire Within You.
mhm.
I mean, when you look through, like when they get the book, it's going to outline the book. They're going to read the book. Like, what can they expect to hear? What can they expect to learn? What do you share? Why is it important to pick it up? What's it going to help them overcome in their own life?
Yep. So I'm just really, like I said, vulnerable and transparent about each experience that I've been through. From, I was the conceptual product of a date rape. So you're not really a
Mm,
wanted child necessarily in that situation. So maybe not everybody has experienced that thing, but people may have experienced the feeling of being unwanted, or told you're not wanted, or then where do I fit, and was I a mistake? And
mm,
and finding that is, you're not a mistake. Like, God knew you were going to be created in that moment, and he can still use that really negative thing to create something very beautiful. And when you embrace who you are and whose you are, like, what you can do with that, and who cares what, about people. And I know it's easier said than done, but especially when it's family, right? But
yeah.
but really, in the book, you're going to find that you're going to be able to align with things. Like, that is not something that I did consciously. There were decisions I made in my life that resulted in really bad consequences. We've
Mm,
all experienced that too, but you need to get away from the shame in it. And the book is really designed to give you permission to just be vulnerable and be transparent, and use those things to heal yourself by serving other people. So it's a very short book. It's an easy read, but each chapter has in sharing the story, but at the end of each chapter, there's questions that help you ponder and think, so that you can create change. Because this isn't just about, like, oh, well, that's really sad that this happened, or oh, whatever.
yes.
It's not a I was a single mom for a while, and I love serving single moms. But there's also this single mom card, right? People play sometimes, like,
Yeah.
oh, listen to me and my story, and can you give me handout? It's obviously very humbling when you have to accept handouts, but you want to be in the place where you want to get through that and on the other side of that fire, so you can, light a spark for other people in those
I like that.
situations. Yeah, to then attract the flame and use it, for good. Because fire can be devastating, but it also wipes out a lot of the bad stuff. Think of forest fires,
Yeah.
and new growth comes, on the ground of the forest after a fire, and it's not
True.
going to come without that, you know.
Yeah.
So
And I think there's stuff that you're sharing relates to everyone, I mean, just the
mhm.
human race in general. I mean, you think about all the insurance agents that come into this industry, and a lot of the things that are holding them back are their past, their experiences, their relationships. It's not always that they're just scared to pick up the phone. But if maybe their lack of confidence is stemming from something from their past, or what's
Yep.
happened, or et cetera.
Mhm.
Um, Obviously, that those are things that you cover in the book, The Fire Within You. But how were you able, just as an individual, to go from all the things that's happened to you that you've been through to now in a place where, as an agency owner with your husband Steve at the Polaris agency, you're doing some really cool stuff. But along the way, you had to get outside your comfort zone and take some risk and build your confidence. But you mentioned some of your childhood and the things you went through, and you know, early as a young adult, all these things you went through. How did you overcome some of those things for somebody that maybe still struggles, and a lot of people do, but just in general, they're still in that. Maybe they're still living in
Mhm.
that.
Mhm. Well, a few things I would say is one, I mean, you really, really, really just need to find out who you are and whose you are, because if you're finding your identity in how much premium I can sell, how much money I make, what car I drive, what house I have, what, look I
Yes.
have or whatever, like those are just fleeting things. And I remember when I first hit my first million, it was like, I thought, man, this is gonna be so great. I will have arrived. I've arrived. And it's like, I mean, this is great, but like
Hmm.
there was something missing because I hadn't done all of the work to fix me. Right. So there's lots of great people in the industry who can teach about how to prospect, how to scale, how to close business, how to all the
True.
stuff. But without really working on the foundation of who you are, and then really where you're going in life, because if you don't know that, your work becomes your life, and then it can be very empty. So
True.
really, I feel like you need some mentorship, somebody, something that's going to help pull you up when you're reaching for that hand, not hand out, but the hand up. Someone to help you with that, um, to hold you accountable to what you say you want, and and to not allow you to sit in your pity corner for
Mm,
more than 20 minutes or whatever, give you permission to feel the feelings, but then help move you through that and up and out into another place.
yes.
I didn't have, I really didn't have a lot of that. I had to just figure it out myself, which took more time. But I had three little kiddos looking at me, and that I knew I needed to get my self together, so that I
Yeah.
could be an example to them. Yeah, I didn't want them growing up and that's what they remember mom. So
Right.
you really got to find you, whose you are, the foundation, and something bigger than yourself,
Yeah.
that gets you past those moments of, man, not doing that is way more painful than doing what I need to do right now.
Mm, so good. I'm looking at the book on Amazon. And again, we have the link below that you can check it out. But again, The Fire Within You: How Women Can Embrace Life's Fires to Rise to Their Greatness. Um, and it says, hey, if you're a woman who has struggled and you want to rise from the ashes, then this is the book for you. I also I love the design and the front cover and how it all looks. It says this book will show you how to overcome the pain caused by divorce, rejection, addiction, chronic illness, loss, and whatever rock bottom you suffered, so you can move beyond it, which means a thriving and God-filled life of abundance, free of guilt and shame. That's so cool.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
and it shares a bunch of the stuff that you'll learn as well. So you can see the pictures. You can check it out again. Link below for The Fire Within You. It even says, "Hey, there's a formula for peace, even if your back is against the wall and things look grim, because isn't that the hardest?" Yeah, it's cool. There's a lot of like stuff. It even details what you can learn in this book. I mean, there's 7 different items of things that you go over. How was it? How was the experience of going through this? I guarantee it wasn't easy. I guarantee it took a bunch of hours, days, weeks, and months.
Yeah. Yeah, it did for sure. And even though I felt called to share all things, there's some things in there that are, you know, very likely to experience a lot of judgment. And sat in shame with some of those things. And, but God just kept saying, I'm asking you to share it all, because if you can't do that, like, how can you lead? How can you really lead people? How can you really encourage people and provide hope and inspiration? So,
Yes.
um, it actually was a healing process for me too, in
Mm.
really owning some of that and, facing it. And there were some things in there when I wrote the book that my kids didn't know. And I always told my kids, like, when they're like, oh, you're somebody texted on your phone, you can look at my phone, you can look at anything. I have nothing to hide. But I did
Yes.
have one thing, one big thing that no one really, not many people knew about. And so I put it in the book because I know that there's people who've been through this. And the night before it was going to publishing, I was like freaking out, crying. I'm like to Steve, like, should I take that out of the book? Are you sure? Like, I don't know. Like, what if my kids are upset? What if they
Mm.
like view me differently? What if it changes our relationship and in a negative way? And you know, he affirmed, God's asked you to do it. You need to do it. There's someone that needs to hear that one thing. Um, so I did it, and it's like I said, just been very healing for me. I did sit down with
Mhm.
the kids before before it hit the shelves, right, and shared with them, and it was just also a healing time for our family. That
Yeah.
they understood and they love me anyway, and they're even more proud, or made connections in different ways. So
Yeah. I can tell it still gets you emotional now. It's
yeah,
such a yeah, it's such a big deal. Such a cool moment to share, but at the same time, you're putting it all out there for everyone, so I can only imagine the feeling of like, "Oh my gosh, man, we're night before. This is big. We're doing this,"
yep,
and it's happening.
yep.
I
But
mean,
like, otherwise you're going to live a life of regret. I mean, who
mm,
wants to do that? I don't want to live every day, every week, I want to, we oftentimes talk about, when we die and face the Lord, and, well done, good and faithful servant. But it's really just wanting to make as much as I can with my, sinful self, like the vision that God had designed for me and who I really stepped into, how close does that measure up, you know?
right.
And living where I was before, carrying those things and not stepping into, certainly was not going to allow me to step into what He has for me, because I'm over here in a whole nother place and a whole nother mindset. So once I was able to shift that and heal myself, then I mean, it's crazy. Like, doors started opening up, and, success
Mm,
was spinning up to the point where then I'm like, all right, like, I'm a little scared of success. I mean, I know that sounds weird, but more in a, um, I don't like arrogancy, and it's oftentimes associated with success and money. So I'm kind of like, because I
mhm.
was expenses here and income was like way down here. I'm like, I just need to get here, or maybe here, then I'm good. And in a moment, God said, but think of all the people that we can help, Amy, with all the extra.
Mm,
And I was like, oh my goodness. Okay, I got it. I got it. I got it. So, okay, here you go. This is yours. You do whatever you want to with it. Even if you shut this business down, like, I will have peace that that is your will. But if you want to blow it up, you show me, because I don't know if that just means more production,
yeah.
agents, whatever. You just send it, and our business literally grew over 100% 3 years in a row. And it was really just all that healing me, which is a constant process, right? And allowing him to work and step, just, there's a lot, number of people in the industry that talk, Matt Evans and Ed Milet, whatever, take your step, you just
Yeah.
do one step at a time. Because at that time it was just trying to provide food, clothing, shelter for my kids. Like, that's all I could see. If God would have showed me now, then I'd be like, nope, nope, can't do that. But
Mm,
He molds you and grows you step by step into what He needs you to be for the next thing. And we're in
yes.
we're in a growth season right now that's fairly painful, you know, and it's just a different experience. It doesn't ever, it never really gets super easy. There's always challenges. Um, but that's when you know you're in the right place. Because when it's
Yes.
easy, you get complacent, and I don't believe God put us on the earth to live a complacent life. So
No doubt about it. I love that. That's a great way to finish this. Well, thank you for sharing today, Amy. I appreciate everything you're doing. Also, for those listening, okay, before I throw it back to Amy for some final words of encouragement, I want to let you know that if you are like, man, I want to support the mission that she actually, you know what? I'm going to go to that in just a second because I want to make sure we touch on that.
okay.
The mission that Amy is on, and I want to grab her book. I want to read it. And I want to light a fire inside of me. The link is in the description below for you to do that. But in closing, why don't you share some of the other things you are doing, projects you have going on now, that I definitely don't want to miss because it's really, really cool, and y'all will definitely enjoy hearing this.
Sure, no problem. So, part of being an agency owner and bringing agents in, um, I really get to know them and what their struggles are, what their, all the different things. And one thing I do is pray with them individually. And, after several people saying, man, like this is like so different and so changing. God woke me up in the middle of the night, says it's not just so and so and so and so that needs this. The whole industry needs this.
Yes.
So then of course, then I'm overthinking, well, how do you do that? And what about this? And like Cody says, details delay, get them out of the way, step in and say yes, and then figure it out. So, excuse me, we have started this movement in the industry, which I think was super evident at 8%, even through all the big speakers on stage.
Mm,
Mylette and Jesse Itzler are not calling each other, checking to see what they're talking about. But yet
yeah.
the thread ran strong all the way through about, the spirit and money. And if spirit is zero, zero times millions is still zero.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so it was really cool. So we have a Facebook group called Ascend. It's on missional entrepreneurship and helping people ascend through that journey. So one thing we're doing is what we call Mission Mondays. We're having a prayer call. Obviously, we're in the insurance industry, so that's open to people in that industry, but it's not limited to that. People
Right.
sometimes are afraid they don't want to go in the doors of a church or whatever, but they can come on anonymously. They don't have their face on. They don't have to have their name on, to just be prayed over, prayed with, and encouraged. So that is every Monday at 12 p.m. Central Time. If you join the Send group, the link is in there. You find it around on my Facebook page and different places as well. We're
Is in
doing,
a Send Facebook group.
yeah, yep,
Okay.
Ascend, yep. And it is, we're also going to be doing quarterly serving opportunities in your local communities. We do that anyway, but we're just going to help equip people in their
Cool.
neighborhoods on how they can do that. We're going to do Ascend weekends a couple times a year up into the mountains. It wasn't too long ago, and it was a lot of stress. And I told my youngest daughter, I'm like, man, when I get a little break, I'm going up in the mountains. I'm going where I have no cell service, and I may or may not come back. In this moment, I'm thinking no, but I just need to be alone with the Lord in my head. And then I thought, goodness, like Jesus went to the mountains to be with God, so that makes sense. So we're going to do some Ascend weekends up into the mountains to just
Cool.
re-equip ourselves and get
Yes.
clear on our vision. And then the last thing is doing an international mission trip together, to really go serve. Again, when you serve, like it's all just winning opportunities, and that is where real life change happens, when you're serving others, serving with your family, serving with your team. Like the strength that brings
It's
your
cool.
team is like amazing. And
I'm
just,
getting goosebumps. I'm getting
yeah,
goosebumps as you talk about it. Like that is so powerful.
yeah, it's amazing. So we're just
Cool.
stepping in, saying yes, and figuring it out along the way. So it'd be awesome to have you join us. This is not a money making venture for Amy or Amy and Steve or Polaris or anything like that. This is trying to live, our business better than usual business with
Mm.
a mission. So
Yes. It's amazing. You rock, and I appreciate you sharing today. Thank you
You're
so much.
very welcome. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, appreciate you. All right, those that are listening, man, I'm gonna give you a few instructions. Okay, make sure you continue to follow Amy Searcy-Knirsch. Go look her up, friend her on Facebook, join the Ascend Facebook group, get involved in some of these ventures if they sound exciting to you and you'd love to give back and be involved, which is really awesome. And make sure that you hit the link in the description and grab Amy's book, The Fire Within You. And we'll see you on the next interview. Thanks so much. Hey, if you enjoyed this, I got another one you're gonna love. It's right there. Click on it. See you in there. If you had to put in like 3 tips based around how anyone can sell thousands of dollars a week without having to spend money, they're getting creative, they're working referrals, whatever. I don't know what advice you got, but is there 3